a few other points on that that have occurred to me since we had that conversation. Um, First, this question of accurate representation, and when we say that someone is straw manning our argument, we're saying that they're not representing our argument accurately. They're not representing our point or our position accurately. Um, the first question that comes to my mind, and this may just be a product of our mutual obsession with the question of whether our communication is effective. Have I presented my position accurately? Does their misrepresentation, quote, misrepresentation, of my argument, is that an indicator that I have communicated poorly? The next part of that is going to, again, this nature of communication, this back and forth, perpetual clarification that goes on. Given that there is every possibility that I have not represented the point that I wanted to get across, or all elements of the point that I wanted to get across accurately, can I really say that they have misrepresented what I am saying, or perhaps rather that they are representing an aspect that relates to what I'm talking about that I did not describe? And there are any number of ways that that could occur. One of the things that occurs in an argument, especially when we're talking about a point that's fairly complex, is that we will represent one aspect or a limited number of aspects within a given point in the argument. Like, we're having a conversation, and in this conversation there is a point that I want to raise. Let's say we're talking about straw men, and in the course of that conversation I recognize that I've got maybe half a dozen points that I want to illustrate. Now, in the course of this, I say, I present a point. Let's say I talk about the problem of accurate representation, and you bring in, clarification. Now, at this point, I can either call straw man, because what you're talking about, the aspects of the issue we're discussing that you brought into the conversation, do not directly correlate, or are perhaps, in my view, simpler or unrelated to what I was talking about. Or I can recognize that you are perhaps responding to an element of the issue which you have perceived, which perhaps I intended to address later on in the conversation, but haven't gotten to it yet. A lot of the time when we call straw man, that's precisely what's going on. The person that we're talking to is putting emphasis on an aspect of the issue that either we were going to address, we felt was inconsequential to the aspects that we wanted to address, or perhaps is an aspect of the position that we're representing that we ourselves had not thought of. And that occurs very frequently. And that brings us right back to the problem of representation. When I am taking a given position in an argument, in a debate, and I present my interpretation, my understanding of that, tailored to the context of the debate and my goals within that debate, and somebody misrepresents, mischaracterizes, what have you, what I have presented, it's entirely possible that the positions or interpretations of my position that they're presenting on this issue are representative of the gaps either in the presentation or in my understanding of what we're talking about. And this too is one of the functions that communication performs. This was one of the reasons that I often find that some of my best progress on a given issue is made when I'm discussing it with somebody else, and often when I'm discussing it with somebody who doesn't agree.